everyone.
We'll begin our program. I'd like to welcome you to the 2022 Veterans Day program. If you would go out on Highway 91 and travel west into the Sandhills, you'll come to a community of veterans. And if you keep traveling deeper into the Sandhills, on the top of a hill, you'll notice a stone cross with a single word on it, and that being Tilly. Now, for the common person just driving by, they kind of take a look and say, that's a kind of a weird place to put money, and think nothing about it, and keep going. But it begs to ask the question, what is the story behind that money? So if you go back and start asking questions, you'll find that in the year of about 1891, the Hammonds, which is a German immigrant family, settled in the region. And the story actually begins on about May 10th, 1891. Tilly and her sister Retta were begging them up. Mom, can we go see our sister, please? Well, their sister worked at a neighboring ranch about 1.5 miles away. Mom, can we go? Can we? So around noon, Mom finally said, okay, you can go see your sister. And so, but they left one special instruction. You be home by night and supper time. And so they went hop-skipping down the horse trail. On the return trip, they noticed that the prairie flowers were in full bloom. And they thought, you know, let's pick a bouquet of flowers and take back to our mother. And so they began. They went picking flowers. After they got their bouquet gathered, they looked around and said, where's the trail? Well, I think it's on top of that hill. So they go up to the top of the hill, no trail. Well, it's got to be over there. They went up there, no trail. And it didn't take long for them to become disorientated. Because in the Sandhills at that time, there was no fields, no fences, no electric poles, no cell phone towers, nothing. And so they continued to wander. When they failed to return that evening, a search party was organized. They began looking for the girls. The girls, as nightfall came, spent it in the bottom of the hill. The next morning, Tilly told her sister, Rita, when you stay here, I'm going to go to the top of that hill and see if I can see that trail. That was the last time she ever saw her sister. After 3 days searching, they finally found Retta. She was barely alive from dehydration and malnutrition. After 7 days, they finally found Tilly. Unfortunately, she was not alive. She had succumbed to dehydration, heat exhaustion. And so that becomes a story that we don't find necessarily in history books, only to those who actually go back and ask the question. We'll begin our program today with a salute to our flag. So if you join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now have a number put on by the junior high band. Okay, we've got 4 gentlemen sitting up here. Well, actually 5. Sorry. Now, on any given day, you can be walking down the street or down the hallways, however, and you might see these gentlemen say, "Hi, Corny. Hi, darling," and think nothing about it. Because we all have busy schedules. But just as in the case of Tilly, who had a story behind that stone cross, each one of these 4 individuals, Kenny, Cecil, Darwin, Corny, has a story. But that story largely goes untold, unless, like we did with Tilly, go back and ask the question. And that's what I did today, is I asked these 4 to tell a story. I asked him a simple question. What does it mean to you to be a veteran? Okay? Now, each individual has a different perspective. Depends upon the circumstances, the environment that you're in. But each one has a slightly different story to tell. And so that's where we're going to begin today, is that we'll start with Kenny, and he's going to tell you what it means to him to be a veteran.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, my talk is going to start out why I joined the service. It seemed like the right thing to do. I always wanted to farm, but also wanted to join the Army, serve 2 years for my country, and then pursue a farming career. At the age of 19, I volunteered for the draft. Was sent to Fort Clarkson, Colorado for basic training. One of the first things I remember is the GI haircut and the vaccinations. After the vaccinations, I took sick and spent 3 or 4 days in the post hospital. After basic training, it was on to AIT. At this time, the Army was activating the 5th Infantry Division mechanized at Fort Clarkson. I was placed in an infantry platoon in the weapons squad. Sometime later, I started working in the communication area of our company. We spent our time training in the hills around Fort Clarkson, one trip to Fort Yakima, Washington, one trip to Fort Irwin, California. Both trips were made in open-air convoys. The trip to Fort Irwin was cut short because of the Cuban Missile Crisis. When in the service, you certainly learn how to take orders, how to get along with all kinds of people. My time in the service was rather soft because it was so-called peacetime. Vietnam was just starting, and our unit was never sent there. After my discharge from active duty, I was assigned to the Army Reserves for 2 years, and then 4 years in the inactive reserves. At the time of discharge, because I served during peacetime, I was not eligible to join the American Legion. Sometime later, the dates for eligibility changed. I was approached by Legion members to join Post 302. My first years, I was a very inactive member. I always had some excuse why I couldn't participate. One day, Urban Imholt called and asked if I would help with the honor guard for a veteran. I again was coming up with excuses. He said to me, "Damn it, Kenny, we have to take time to bury the dead." That meant something to me, and I became more active in the American Legion. I feel honored to have served in the U.S. Army. I'm also very humbled because of those who also served and gave their lives to make it possible for us to live with the freedom we enjoy today and take for granted. We owe them more than I can put into words. Thank you.
Enlisted for 4 years in the United States Marine Corps. Was part of the Marine Air Wing helicopter outfit, traveled halfway around the world. But that's not what I'm going to talk about. To go by what I think it actually means to be a veteran. It comes in 2 parts. You're either on active duty or you're on inactive duty or civilians, which means you're really a veteran your whole life. Once a veteran, always a veteran. To begin active duty, all persons subscribe to the military oath. That oath means that you would swear to defend the Constitution of the United States and obey orders from the President and all officers appointed over them. When you think about that, that's a big responsibility. But then, before you get into the military, you go off to boot camp. And as a recruit in that service that you chose, the recruit grows physically, mentally, learns to follow orders without hesitation, and learns to work with others as a unit. They determine what it takes, if they have what it takes, to become a veteran. Then upon graduation from boot camp, the recruit becomes an active member of that branch of the service, in my case, the Marine Corps. And they're assigned to advanced training, where I became the radio technician in a helicopter outfit. And assigned duties, that was to keep the planes flying. But like all veterans that are in the service, they gain confidence in their abilities. They develop good work ethics. They learn how to work with others. They form a unit that, along with all the other units, form up the branch of the service that they are in, and the branches of the service form up the military of the United States, which leads us right back to the oath, to defend the Constitution. But after their term of enlistment, veterans return to civilian life, which is in active duty. There, their military training has given them a maturity that makes them reliable workers who take pride in the work that they do. They become active members of their community. They join religious, civic, and humanitarian organizations. They bring their ideas and their methods and their leadership into the communities, state, and the nation, where they are happy to stand to be recognized when they hear the military hymn. Veterans gladly stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Veterans stand for the national anthem. They are proud to stand and salute the stars and stripes of our flag when it passes by. To me, that's what it means to be a veteran. Thank you.
And good morning to you all. When Don called and said, would you like to say a few words about your service? And I got to thinking, there wasn't really anything special about my service. I volunteered for the Air Force in October of 1969, right in the midst of the Vietnam War. I served through August of 1973. You talk about a culture shock. I had hardly been out of Colfax County, and all of a sudden, I was thrown in with kids of all faiths, all creeds, all colors, kids from inner city ghettos. At that time, kids had a choice, some kids had a choice to either go to jail or go to the military. So there were some of those kids too. And it was a real learning experience. But it gave me a great perspective on this country, its wide variety of cultures, of the things that we live in our little sheltered community here, and sometimes we just don't think about. I will echo some of the other comments today in thinking about what the military taught me. Teamwork, dedication, commitment, following orders. My wife might argue with that one just a little bit. But all of those things are things that you take with you for the rest of your life. Teamwork is critical for a lot of things that we do in our lives. When Don asked me to do this, he kind of forced me into thinking about some of the people that I hadn't thought about in a long time. Gordon Bittner from Oregon. Don Heinlein from Michigan, Larry C. Dodd from South Carolina, people that I served with but hadn't thought about it in years. This past year, I got to thinking about an old friend from my military days. His name was Bill Buck. And the wonders of the internet, I did a people search. I found Bill Buck, a telephone number. I knew he lived in Maryland, and there he was. So I dialed the number. I thought, oh boy, hope he doesn't fire from it. But when it rang 3 or 4 times, and this is what he said when he picked up the phone. He said, we get so many, he didn't say hello or anything, he just said, we get so many telemarketing calls. I wasn't even going to answer this call because I didn't recognize the number. But then, your name popped up. And I knew right away I had to answer. We had a wonderful talk. I hadn't talked to him in 51 years. I said I served during the Vietnam War. Not a popular time to serve. But as a veteran, there are 2 days that are really important to me. Memorial Day, I always get goosebumps when Rex is reading that roll call, his dad before him. And the other day is today. And I will close with a phrase you've heard before, and that is that freedom is not free. 2.7 million kids my age served in Vietnam. 58,220 paid the ultimate price with their life. 997 died the first day they arrived in Vietnam. 1,448 died the last day they were supposed to leave Vietnam. 31 sets of brothers died in Vietnam. The average age of a casualty in Vietnam was 23 years old. Just kids. When you see a first responder, a policeman, a doctor, a nurse, a veteran, just give them a little thumbs up. Thanks for your service, and thank you for listening.
Good morning. What it means to be a veteran. I graduated from high school in 1958. At this time the draft was on, so I knew at some point I'd have to go do my duties. This is when I volunteered to go into the Navy. To me, being a veteran means I served my country in the U.S. Navy for 4 years. Being in the military taught me self-discipline, to grow up, and become a responsible person. After basic training, I was sent to supply school. I then went to Monterey, California for short leave. From there, I was sent to the USS Forrestal aircraft carrier, which was docked in Cannes, France. I traveled to 7 different countries that I would have never seen otherwise. And during that time, the USS Forrestal was involved in the Cuban crisis in 1961. I am proud to be a veteran who served my country, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. I am thankful to God for this great country we live in, the United States of America. Thank you.
What these fellows said is absolutely true. I concur with about everything that these fellows said. I kind of grew up in the same time Darwin did. When I was in college, I wanted to get into teaching, and so I went into National Guard. Now, a couple things that occurred to me is on our flight to boot camp, I met a young gentleman, blonde-haired fella who was kind of lively, and we got talking on the plane on the way down. And I asked him what his name was, and he told me Gary Schneider. I said, "Where are you from, Gary?" And he says, "Leigh, Nebraska." Where is Leigh, Nebraska? Never heard of it. Once we got into boot camp, I would agree with exactly what Darwin was saying. We live a very sheltered life. Because just like him, it was the first time I ever came in contact with kids from the inner cities of New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles. And it was quite evident, especially through live grenade training. These fellows never threw a baseball. And, you know, it didn't take long for us to realize we're all brothers. We got together and we talked because we knew their survival might mean our survival. So we taught them just like they were our own family. While I was in, I definitely had my doubts because that was during the Vietnam era, and we seen troops coming back from Vietnam, being met by crowds of people, hissed at, spit at, cussed at, and I'm thinking, why am I here? And it didn't take long for me to realize I'm here so they have the freedom to do that. The thing, I guess, what I want to kind of bring to you is do not ever give up on America. She has her trials at times, but she will pull through. Thank you, gentlemen, for your expertise. This comes from the heart, by the way. And that's what we wanted that to mean. We'll now proceed to go into some musical by our elementary students. And we'll turn it over to Cindy.
These past 9 weeks, we've been learning about folk songs. What better song to sing than a folk song that is also patriotic? This Land is Your Land by Woody Guthrie.
This land was made for you and me. hero? A hero is someone who puts others before themselves. They are kind, caring, and thoughtful.
A hero can be anyone, someone you look up to or someone you help.
We have everyday heroes like policemen, volunteer firemen, first responders, and the list goes on.
People give, people care. There are heroes everywhere.
We are thankful for our many heroes. Veterans don't always think of themselves as heroes, but they are. They put their life on the line for all of us to have our freedoms. They are willing to leave their family and friends to help others.
It is our tradition to honor these heroes by singing the service medley song. When your branch of the military is sung, please stand to be recognized. Navy.
Through
Army.
Sound
start being a hero.
Anyone can be a hero. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you are girl or boy, black or white, Democrat or Republican. Anyone can be a hero.
Yes, even little kids can be heroes. Now comes kindergarten and first singing One Small Voice with American Sign Language.
Thank you, Sydney. That was inspirational, I gotta say. Coming to the podium right now, we'll ask Janet Eisman. She is the commander of the Legion Pulse 302 Auxiliary. Janet?
Welcome from the American Legion Auxiliary. We celebrate Memorial Day to remember those veterans who died serving our country. Today is Veterans Day, which is the one day in a year we honor our living veterans as well as those deceased. Some of the veterans here today told a little about their military experiences. I'm going to tell you a little about the American Legion Auxiliary. As part of the American Legion preamble, our auxiliary promises to participate in and contribute to the aims and purposes of the American Legion. One of the ways the American Legion Auxiliary supports the American Legion is helping out at the Norfolk Veterans Home. We help the residents play bingo, and then we furnish root beer floats, and they love that. We also take up the Valentines that our elementary students make, and we take those up to the residents, and they like that. They can't wait to get those Valentines. We have a program, our auxiliary has a program that we call Adopt a Vet. And this is a resident at the Norfolk Veterans Home, and our auxiliary ladies write letters, they visit whatever with that resident and kind of just to make him feel good. This year, our ALA donated $132 for a 1 year to Tunnels to Towers, which helps homeless veterans find homes and funding. You all have helped with one of our other projects, and that's Poppy Week. You purchase a poppy, which is the American Legion flower. The ALA gives a poppy bouquet to the deceased member's family at their funeral. Another of our projects, Marianne McMullen is chairman of, is the American Essay Contest. And our elementary students, 3rd through 6th grade, just participated in this recently. The theme was, what does patriotism mean to you? And most of the students named Making Valentines for Veterans, saying daily the Pledge of Allegiance, standing for the national anthem, and flying the flag. I quote Marianne, who said, "This proves to me that their families, teachers, and the American Legion family are making a lifelong impression on them, and the programs the ALA promote every year are not in vain." The American Legion Auxiliary is a busy organization whose main purpose is to aid and support the American Legion. We'd welcome anyone who would be interested to join us.
Thank you, Janet. By the way, the Ladies Auxiliary has done a lot of activities throughout the communities to serve our veterans, not only here in Leigh, but in Clarkson, Norfolk, and surrounding areas. Next up, we're going to call Justine Fisher to the podium, as well as Mike Benish, who is the commander of the VFW post in Schuyler, to present the Patriot Pen and Voice of Democracy.
Thank you, Don. Every year, we are fortunate that we are called upon to write some essays for the Patriots Pen Contest, which is for grades 6 through 8, as well as the Voice of Democracy speaking contest for grades 9 through 12. Mrs. Brevitt's 6th grade class participated this year in Patriots Pen, and my 8th grade class participated in Patriots Pen. The Schuyler VFW Post sponsored both of these contests for students in Clarkson, Leigh, and Schuyler schools. And helping to present the awards today is VFW Post 4836 Commander Mike Benish, and we're really happy that he could be here today. So this year's Patriots Pen contest, it's a 300 to 400 word essay, and the essay is judged on knowledge, theme development, and clarity. This year's theme was My Pledge to Our Veterans. And winning from Leigh, if you guys could come down now and get your certificate. In 3rd place was Avery Keister. In 2nd place was Trenton Olson. And the winner from Leigh this year was Violet Hollitz. And Violet Hollins will now read her winning essay.
What do you call a person who has put your life before theirs? What I call them is a veteran. Veterans are people who at one point in their life wrote a blank check for an amount up to their entire life made payable to the United States of America. Veterans protect our rights and freedoms, but they also provide services and aid to those in need of it. For all that they did for us, the least that we could do is show them honor and support. On the inside, you know that you honor and support our veterans, but how do they know that? There are many ways to honor our veterans, like showing up to a Veterans Day program, thanking them for their service when you see them anywhere, writing them a thank you letter, and the easiest way of all, standing for the flag with your right hand on your heart. An even bigger way of showing your honor and support for all the veterans is sitting down with them and just talking to them about their life experiences or what makes them happy. Even if they are just your relative from one of the wars, I promise they will be delighted to tell you how they have become the person they are today. You may even learn a life lesson out of all the stories they tell you that could have a great impact on your future life. I think that these ways of showing veterans how you feel about them are very small ways to show honor and support for them. My pledge to veterans is to do the little things and the extra 1% that they enjoy seeing youthful people do for them every day. I have many more ways every day that you might not know you are honoring and supporting your veterans, but you are. I hope you know they really appreciate it. As our former president, John F. Kennedy, once said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." Next time you're asking someone to do something for you, think about this quote and challenge yourself to ask them instead what you could do for public and human good. This doesn't just mean what you could do for your veterans, it means what you could do for your family, friends, peers, loved ones, and neighbors.
Thanks, Violet. We will now announce the winners for the Voice of Democracy. The Leigh 10th grade students take part in this traditionally, so this was all of this year's sophomores participated. And if you guys will come down now. In third place was Bailey Secchi. In second place was Isabel Hollins. And this year's winner, who was also the overall winner between Leigh and Clarkson, is Delaney Irwin. And Delaney will now read her winning speech.
Why is the veteran important? A play, a movie, the cast, the crew. The show must go on without a hitch. The countless hours of blood, sweat, and tears put into this play to either be a success or a failure. Only the judges can decide. From the beautiful start to the terrifying climax, the show goes on, often ending joyfully for one character and tragically for another. So many people work behind the scenes, hustling and hurrying, never heard or seen, but always there doing their part. Never seen, never heard, but always there. A play is not unlike a battle or conflict. The actors garner most of the attention, not unlike the top generals in our armed forces. But what makes any production a masterpiece is the vital force of talented individuals behind the scenes. The crew, working faithfully and diligently to ensure the show's success. They do not ask for honor or recognition and are seldom given it. But they do their jobs faithfully anyway, much like the United States veterans. The importance of the veteran is them working behind the scenes, sacrificing and putting their lives on the line each and every day to make sure that you and I are able to live in freedom and peace. The definition of the veteran is so basic and generic because the real definition of a veteran is a person just like you and me who puts his or her life on the line to make sure that you and I can and will have the best future possible. These men and women have lived their lives with fear, pain, suffering, and so much more that you and I could barely imagine. The veteran is the person who, when called upon in time of need, said they would step up to the plate and defend our country. So when asked the definition of the veteran, what will you say? We hear about the generals and the captains that lead to war victories who are considered heroes, but we don't hear about the heroes who are alongside those captains and generals working towards those victories. The veteran helped in keeping the land of the free and home of the brave free and brave throughout this country. Throughout World War I and World War II, the United States veterans continued to fight alongside others in places like the Marne River Valley, Normandy, and Okinawa for different countries to not only help their own, but others. So many different wars and battles have been fought over time, leading to the realization of how truly important our veterans are. These men and women trekked over unknown lands and unknown conditions with an unknown outcome of how each day would go. Many, many years ago, America was not this beautiful country it is today. But thanks to the veteran, we can now call it America the Beautiful. From George Washington declaring our independence from Great Britain to setting up our country for success, he made sure that America would be a peaceful country someday. We recite our love and faith in our country through the Star-Spangled Banner and the Pledge of Allegiance, and are only capable of doing so because the veteran made sure that they would continue on by fighting for our country. President Dwight D. Eisenhower struck out the word armistice in Armistice Day and changed it to veteran to make it Veterans Day because he knew that the veteran was a very important person who was very well worth having a day to celebrate. America will forever hold a day of remembrance for the people who made it possible for America to be as strong and successful as it is today. Freedom and peace are the two most important things that we as Americans take for granted. The same freedom and peace that our veterans work so hard every single day to establish and maintain. I hope that you and every single person can learn to make the most of every single day and opportunity that is handed to you, because someplace, somewhere, there are people who are fighting to keep our freedom and peace alive within our country for you and me. We owe everything we have to thank these men and women for all the sacrifices they have made and the time with their families that they have given us throughout their lifetime. For much like the crew in a production of a play, the veteran working behind the scenes may not always be seen or heard, but from sea to shining sea, they are always there doing what they can to ensure peace and prosperity for us all. Thank you.
And I just wanted to give one more big thanks to Don and to Cheryl Langdon and to Mike for coming down here, and we're very lucky to be able to participate in this contest, and we look forward to it every year.
Thank you, Justine and Mike, and congratulations to all the participants. It was very evident that a lot of work and thought went into these essays. We'll proceed now to a selection from the Senior High Choir. Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, choir. At this point, we would like to thank Leigh Community School for allowing us to present this program. We would extend appreciation as well to Chris Kirk, the wife, to Ken, Cecil, Dara, and Corny for their deliverance, for Mike for helping out and sponsoring the Voice of Democracy. The junior high band and choir, very, very well done. There is a reminder that the FCCLA chapter will be sponsoring coffee and pie to the veterans and their families outside in the Commons area immediately following the program. And we publicly wish to thank the FCCLA chapter on behalf of the Legion and their families for taking the time to make this service in honor of our veterans. Remember, history is all around us, just like that of Tilly. And it's not always between the covers of history books. Those stories will go largely untold unless we ask the questions and seek the answers and talk to individuals like what we have up here of what it means to be a veteran. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.